every trader reaches a strange and unexpected moment. You're staring at the charts. The same charts that once felt overwhelming, chaotic, and loud, and suddenly they don't scream at you anymore. The noise softens, the confusion fades, nothing dramatic happens. There's no massive win, no perfect trade, no emotional rush. Instead, there's silence, and in that silence, something inside you shifts. Most traders never reach this moment. They spend their entire journey chasing excitement, chasing movement, chasing validation. But the traders who last, the ones who quietly separate themselves from the majority, experience this internal transition. They stop reacting and start observing. They stop forcing trades and start waiting. The market hasn't changed. They have. At the beginning, trading feels like action. Every candle demands a decision. Every price movement feels urgent. You believe that doing more will make you grow faster. You believe activity equals progress. But over time, you learn a hard truth. The market does not reward activity. It rewards discipline. It rewards restraint. It rewards patience. When you begin to trade for clarity instead of excitement, that's your first real sign of growth. You no longer feel the need to constantly be in a position. You stop chasing every move. You stop fearing missed opportunities. Instead, you become comfortable waiting. You understand that not trading is often the most powerful decision you can make. Your behavior changes quietly. You check charts less obsessively. You stop watching every tick. You're no longer emotionally tied to every small movement. And the calm you feel doesn't come from the market being quiet. It comes from you being centered. That calm is earned, not given. This is where most traders fail. They confuse boredom with failure. They think silence means something is wrong. But experienced traders understand something deeper. Patience is not passive. Waiting is not weakness. Waiting is positioning. You stop trying to outsmart the market. You stop believing you can control it. Instead, you learn to align with it. You allow price to come to you. You let your setups develop fully. And while others panic, you sit still. That stillness isn't laziness. It's control. Control over fear. Control over greed. Control over impulse. The ability to sit through uncertainty without reacting is one of the rarest skills in trading. And once you develop it, everything changes. This is the moment when trading stops being emotional and starts becoming intentional. You're no longer trading because you feel something. You're trading because conditions are right. You're no longer chasing outcomes. You're executing a process. If you felt this shift, even slightly, recognize it. It's subtle, but it's powerful. It's the first sign that you're no longer trading like the majority. You're beginning to think like the few who last. The second major shift happens when losses stop hurting the way they used to. Not because you've stopped losing. Losses never disappear. But because they no longer define you. Early in a trader's journey, every losing trade feels personal. A red day feels like failure. A drawdown feels like proof that you're not good enough. That mindset is dangerous. At some point, profitable traders stop seeing losses as punishment. They see them as information. A loss becomes feedback about the system, about execution, about discipline. It's no longer emotional, it's analytical. In the early years, one losing trade can ruin your entire day. You feel the urge to make it back immediately. You chase, you overtrade, you break rules. But the market doesn't care about your emotions. It only responds to behavior. The turning point comes when you stop asking, "Why did I lose money?" and start asking, "Did I follow my plan?" That single question changes everything. Because when execution becomes your measure of success instead of outcome, consistency becomes possible. You realize something critical. No single trade matters. No single win defines you. No single loss breaks you. Your identity is no longer attached to short-term results. And once that happens, the market loses its emotional power over you. This is where maturity shows. Profitable traders aren't trying to be perfect. They're trying to be present, fully focused, fully disciplined, fully aligned with their process. Your reactions soften. Your patience increases. Your focus sharpens. You stop spiraling after losses. You stop celebrating wins too intensely. You remain steady, balanced, grounded. That emotional stability isn't accidental. It's earned through repetition, reflection, and pain. And if you're noticing that losses no longer shake you the way they once did, that's not coincidence. That's evolution. You're learning that consistency isn't built on confidence alone. It's built on emotional control. When you can take a loss calmly, without revenge trading, without self-doubt, you've crossed an invisible line most traders never cross. Another powerful sign appears quietly. You begin to trust your own judgment. Early on, traders jump from strategy to strategy. They chase indicators. They follow opinions. They doubt every decision. Confidence is fragile because experience is shallow. But over time, something changes. After enough screen time, enough mistakes, enough reflection, you begin to recognize patterns, not just on the chart, within yourself. You start hearing your own intuition again, not emotional intuition, but informed intuition built from data and repetition. You stop looking for constant confirmation from others. You stop second-guessing every setup. You follow your system even when it feels boring, even when it feels slow, because you've learned the truth. Boring trading is profitable trading. The thrill fades. Clarity replaces excitement. Your best trades feel calm, not chaotic. You value peace of mind more than quick profits. And that's how you know you're becoming a real trader. The market tests everyone. It tests ego. It tests patience. It tests identity. Most people don't fail because they lack strategy. They fail because they lack control. When you find yourself becoming quieter, less reactive, more disciplined, that's not weakness. That's strength. Trusting yourself doesn't mean being reckless. It means being consistent. It means following your rules even when it's uncomfortable. It means respecting your process more than your impulses. That trust is built slowly, but once it's there, it becomes unshakable. At some point, you stop waking up chasing opportunity and start waking up protecting discipline. That's the fourth sign. It's not exciting. It won't impress anyone. But it's the foundation of longevity. You understand every trading day doesn't need to be profitable, but every trading day must be productive. Some days you trade. Some days you wait. Some days you observe. And you realize something profound. Waiting is a position. Amateurs hate silence. Professionals respect it. Discipline matures into calm. You stop arguing with the market. You stop forcing outcomes. You respond when conditions align and remain still when they don't. You're no longer exhausted after sessions. You're not emotionally drained. You don't obsess over your P&L. Your self-worth no longer swings with your equity curve. That peace creates clarity, and clarity allows consistency. One of the most important shifts is learning to think in probabilities instead of outcomes. This is where gamblers separate from professionals. A gambler wants to be right. A professional wants to execute correctly over a large sample size. You stop caring about individual results. You focus on making good decisions repeatedly. You trust math over emotion, process over pride. You can say, this trade lost money, but it was a good trade. That sentence alone defines maturity. You stop cutting winners short out of fear. You stop adding to losers out of hope. You follow your risk management without negotiation. Consistency isn't built on intensity. It's built on repetition, doing the right thing over and over without needing immediate confirmation. When you accept the delay between discipline and reward, profitability becomes inevitable. Eventually, trading stops being about money. It becomes a reflection of who you are. Your patience, your humility, your discipline. You simplify everything. Fewer indicators, fewer trades, cleaner charts, clearer rules, less noise. You move from wanting more to wanting better. But with mastery comes danger, complacency. Confidence must always be balanced with humility. The market is generous, but only to students who remain curious. Success isn't a destination. It's maintenance. When you find that balance between confidence and caution, trading becomes peaceful. You're no longer chasing the market. You're flowing with it. That's when the market stops being your enemy and becomes your mirror. And when you master yourself, profit stops being something you chase. It becomes something you deserve. There comes a stage in a trader's journey that is rarely talked about. Not because it's unimportant, but because it's difficult to explain. It's the stage where trading no longer feels like a struggle. Not because the market has become easy, but because your relationship with it has matured. You no longer feel like you're fighting price. You're no longer trying to prove anything. Trading starts to feel natural. At this stage, your rules don't feel restrictive anymore. They feel protective. You don't follow them because you're afraid of losing money. You follow them because breaking them feels uncomfortable. Discipline has moved from something you force into something you embody. That's when trading truly becomes second nature. Earlier in your journey, every decision required effort. You had to remind yourself not to overtrade. You had to fight the urge to revenge trade. You had to consciously slow yourself down. But now, those impulses appear less often. And when they do, you recognize them immediately. You don't argue with them. You simply let them pass. This is where true confidence shows itself. Not loud confidence, not ego, quiet confidence. The kind that doesn't need validation from wins or excuses for losses. You trust your preparation. You trust your data. You trust your process. And because of that trust, you no longer feel rushed. Time feels different now. You're no longer in a hurry to make it. You understand that longevity is the real goal. One good year doesn't matter if you can't repeat it. One strong month means nothing if it's followed by reckless behavior. So you slow down. You think in years, not days. You also become far more selective. You pass on trades without regret. You let good-looking setups go because they don't fully meet your criteria. And surprisingly, this doesn't frustrate you. It empowers you, because every trade you don't take protects your edge just as much as the ones you do. Another subtle change happens here. You stop romanticizing the market. You no longer see it as something to conquer. You see it as something to respect. You understand that uncertainty is permanent, and instead of fighting it, you've learned to coexist with it. Your risk management becomes automatic. Position sizing feels intuitive. You don't need to calculate every outcome emotionally because you've already accepted them logically. You know what you're willing to lose before you enter. And because of that, once you're in a trade, your mind is free. This freedom is what most traders are actually chasing, even if they don't realize it. Freedom from fear. Freedom from impulse. Freedom from self-sabotage. Money is just the byproduct. At this level, trading also begins to influence your life outside the charts. You become more patient in conversation, more thoughtful in decisions, less reactive under pressure. The same discipline that keeps you from forcing trades now keeps you from forcing outcomes in life. You stop needing to be right. You stop needing control. You stop needing certainty. And in that surrender, you gain stability. But even here, the journey doesn't end. The best traders understand that mastery is fragile. That's why humility becomes a daily practice. You keep journaling, you keep reviewing, you keep asking questions, not because something is wrong, but because you respect how quickly complacency can creep in. You've learned that the market doesn't punish ignorance as harshly as it punishes arrogance. So you stay grounded, you stay curious, you stay disciplined even when things are going well. This is the final transformation, when trading stops feeling like a battle and starts feeling like a rhythm. When you no longer need motivation to follow your plan. When patience feels natural, not forced. When silence feels productive, not empty. And if you've reached this stage even briefly, understand how rare it is. Most traders never get here, not because they aren't smart enough, but because they couldn't endure the emotional cost of growth. You did. Trading is no longer something you do. It's part of who you are. And from that place, consistency isn't stressful. It's sustainable. That's when you know you're no longer trying to become a profitable trader. You already are. There is one final truth every profitable trader eventually learns, and it's uncomfortable at first. Most traders do not fail because trading is impossible. They fail because they quit too early. Not early in time, but early in transformation. They leave right before discipline becomes effortless, right before patience feels natural. Right before clarity replaces confusion. The hardest part of trading isn't learning strategies. It isn't reading charts. It isn't even managing risk. The hardest part is enduring the long stretch where progress is invisible, where you're doing everything right but results lag behind, where discipline feels unrewarded and patience feels pointless. This is the phase where most traders walk away. They assume something is wrong because nothing dramatic is happening. They expect growth to feel exciting. They expect consistency to feel like winning. But real progress in trading is quiet. It feels boring. It feels repetitive. It feels slow. And that's exactly why it works. At this stage, profitable traders learn to respect the long game. They stop measuring success in weeks or months. They measure it in survival. They understand that staying in the game is the first victory. Capital preservation becomes more important than capital growth, because without survival, growth is impossible. You begin to realize that trading is less about making money and more about avoiding self-destruction, avoiding emotional decisions, avoiding overconfidence, avoiding impatience. Most accounts aren't blown by bad strategies. They're blown by good strategies applied with poor discipline. When you truly commit to the long game, your behavior changes again. You stop rushing your development. You stop comparing your timeline to others. You stop thinking, I should be further by now. Instead, you think, as long as I'm improving, I'm on track. That mindset removes pressure. And when pressure disappears, performance improves. You also start respecting recovery. You understand that rest is part of discipline. Stepping away from the charts isn't weakness, it's maintenance. Burnout is not a badge of honor. Longevity is. At this level, you no longer try to extract money from the market every day. You let opportunities come to you. You allow stretches of inactivity without guilt. You accept that some of the best decisions you'll ever make are trades you never enter. Another powerful shift happens here. You stop needing certainty to act. You accept that uncertainty is permanent. You don't wait for perfect confirmation. You wait for enough confirmation, enough to justify risk within your rules. And once you're in, you let the trade play out without interference. This is where trust completes the cycle. Trust in your system. Trust in probabilities. Trust in yourself. You no longer micromanage trades because you've already done the work beforehand. Preparation replaces anxiety, but even in the long game, danger exists. The danger isn't loss. It's boredom turning into carelessness. That's why structure remains essential. Journaling, reviews, routine. These habits aren't exciting, but they are protective. They keep you aligned when motivation fades. The traders who survive decades aren't the most aggressive. They're the most consistent. They don't rely on inspiration. They rely on systems. They don't chase momentum. They manage exposure. They don't seek validation from the market. They seek alignment with their process. And here's the quiet reward of the long game: peace. Not the absence of losses, but the absence of panic. Not the absence of uncertainty, but the absence of fear. You trade knowing that whatever happens next won't break you. If you're still here, still learning, still refining, still disciplined, understand this: you are already ahead of most, not because of what you've earned, but because of who you're becoming. Trading rewards those who stay, those who endure the silence, those who trust the process even when nothing seems to be happening. The market eventually reveals itself to those who stop demanding immediate proof. So play the long game. Protect your discipline. Respect your pace. Stay humble. Stay patient. Because the traders who win in the end aren't the ones who move the fastest. They're the ones who lasted,